Hey everybody, Katie Sutton here, intuitive channel and founder of Zen Within Academy with your Zen Withins'day update. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about this idea of how we can use duality and looking at things from a dualistic perspective to move through resistance. And I know a lot of times I'm talking with you all about how we can bring unity to things, but there's always a balance, right? There's sometimes a balance that is needed. So let's talk about this. Let's get into this. I am doing a healing circle tonight on reigniting our magic. And one of the things that I've been sitting with is what takes me out of my magic. And let me first define what I mean by magic, just so that we're clear. I'm talking about my connection to source, my connection to the divine, my connection to my higher self, my connection to my inner child's magic, my wisdom, my innate intuition, the flow of life, and being able to dance with life rather than be in resistance to it. So that's how I define magic. I know that may not be the traditional definition, but that's how I define it. So I've been sitting with this question of what takes me out of my magic. And I had an experience for a couple of days where I am seeing some changes that are happening in my work and in how I need to work and how I need to take care of myself, and just some changes that I need to make. And I could see the part of myself that doesn't want to do that work, who's a little bit tired of change and in resistance to change, go into resistance. And I kept trying to push through that resistance, get out of that resistance, find a way out of it. And yesterday morning in meditation, I had a moment of being able to hold duality so that I could process that resistance. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So I had a moment yesterday in meditation where I could feel the part of me that was in resistance, which I would call a human aspect, a very normal human aspect that has a bit of change fatigue, because it seems like I am shifting so fast all the time that things are constantly changing and I'm constantly being pushed out of my comfort zone. And there's a part of me that loves that, but there's a very human part of me that's like, F this crap, quite honestly. And I could also tune into my higher self version, who has trust and faith and knows that this is all working out in my highest and greatest good. I could tune into both of those aspects. And I called on the aspect of me that is operating in the highest light, that is my higher self, for lack of a better term, the part of me that's very innately wise, my magical part. And I called on it and I said, we need to hold space for this part of me that's in resistance. And as soon as I did that, immediately, as soon as I did it, I could feel the part of me that was in resistance, number one, taking a deep breath and being fully seen, which is really what it was asking for. And number two, I could feel the resistance, which was very much in my body. My neck and shoulders were out of whack. I could feel it dismantling itself, and I could feel my heart opening, and I could feel myself coming back into my center channel and being more present in my field. I could feel the pains that were in my body that I was so focused on, which were the resistance showing themselves to me, flowing out of my being. And I could feel myself coming back into connection with myself. And it was instant, right? It was instant, because in the moment where I said, let's hold space for this part that's in resistance, rather than being in resistance to the part that's in resistance or judging it, that was surrender. So when people ask me, what does it mean to surrender? This is what I tell them, right? It is dropping into non-attachment and being with the parts of you that you maybe have been in resistance to or are not doing what you would like, the parts that are not cooperating, and giving them full grace and full awareness and full permission to be exactly as they are. And that is so possible for everyone. But what I find is that we are trying to surrender, and in that trying, we are not surrendering. And so this is the case when people come to me with chronic pain. This is the case when people come to me with depression or anxiety, or maybe they have a relationship issue, with really anything that is just driving them crazy and they feel stuck in. I invariably tune into their energy field, and I can feel how clenched they are and how much resistance is there and how much constriction is there and how much effort is there. And when I can take them out of that and give their mental body something else to focus on, or give their mental body another way to look at the problem, so to speak, the magic returns and the flow returns. And all of a sudden they're calling me the next day and things have worked themselves out. And one of the things that I've also learned is that when you're in that place, it takes practice to learn how to hold this space for yourself. So oftentimes what I'm doing when people come into session is I'm teaching them the tools that they need of how to hold space for themselves so that they can hold this duality of being in that higher perspective while these other human aspects of them are moving through the paces of what happens in life where we're struggling and we have difficult things that we move through. And that takes practice. It takes practice to be able to pull out of the muck, right? But I do that for a living and I do it every day. And still, sometimes I can get caught in the muck and I need to call somebody to remind me of who I am, right? And it takes practice, but everybody can do it. Everybody can do this. When we're working on dropping into unity consciousness, activating our magic, activating our connection, our intuition, we don't have to experience duality as a bad thing. We need duality to help us to understand things, to help us to basically make a shift in our perspective of what we want to be focused on, right? We need that constrictive energy sometimes to shift us out of things. And so duality isn't bad. And in fact, we can exist and we can feel that duality and we can feel that polarity and we can use that to our advantage to allow ourselves to be able to hold these two perspectives at once, right? Our ability in humanity to be able to see things in a dualistic or polarized way can be beneficial as long as we're not using it as weapons against other people, because that also takes us out of our magic. Another thing that I am noticing that takes me out of my magic is when I go into comparison or judgment energy. So if I'm comparing myself to other people's process, because that's what our social media likes to make us do, right? Like it wants us to compare ourselves to everybody, or I'm judging myself in a harsh manner or really any manner, I am out of my magic. I am out of flow. I am out of connection with life. I'm out of connection with myself because I'm creating separation, right? So even when I'm holding these dualistic abilities where I can have the higher perspective and the human perspective, right? It's not from a place of judgment. It is from a place of grace and compassion. It is from a place of allowing. And that is super, super important, right? Because if I'm holding this dualistic perspective, but all I'm doing is judging the part that's in resistance, that's not actually bringing in any unity, bringing in any healing. That is just taking that part of us that's feeling constricted and having a hard time and dropping it into more shame. And when we're shaming ourselves, nothing can shift. Okay, let me say that again. When we are shaming ourselves, nothing can shift, right? Absolutely nothing can shift when we are shaming ourselves. We can force change through willpower and through shame for a small period of time, but it will not actually shift you at a core, energetic being level, okay? It will be an outward shift, a pretend shift, if you will, and it will be temporary. So that is super, super important, right? It doesn't mean that we just give ourselves a free pass to operate in a way that we know isn't in our greatest good, but it also doesn't mean that we judge and shame, right? It's a very fine line to walk, and it takes a lot of practice. So I'll tell you the best place to practice this is when you're out in the world, because it's easy, in my opinion, or easier to give other people grace. And so if you can practice that, then you can start to turn that inward as well. So if this topic calls to you and you would like to work on reigniting your magic and working with being able to hold this duality, which, by the way, we're going to be balancing the brain in this activity as well, and balancing the space between the intuitive and the analytical brain in our activation, then I hope you'll join us for our healing circle tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you can't join it live and you just are seeing this later, you can always catch the recording at any time. And I do have a subscriber program where you can get access to all of my healing circles going all the way back to 2019. which is a lot of healing circles, right? I do one every month, and we've covered so many topics, and there's so much value in that, and it's a very inexpensive price. It's only $30 a month to join that subscriber program, and you get bonus content every month too, and access to a learning portal, all kinds of wonderful things. So if you enjoy these videos and you want to engage with me in another way, and you want to learn from me, and you want to be in community, this is a great way to experience that at a very low price and a low commitment. All right. So I hope you all have an amazing day. I will see you next week for more information about June and the next themes that are coming up. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.